Hey guys, welcome to my channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei married with Rias Graymory part 2. Before we start the video, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like, and also share this video to your friends, and also watch part 1. Let's start the video. Not nearly enough, Rias said sarcastically, making Chow roar with laughter and Issei crack a grin. Without another word, Chow began to pull items and ingredients from shelves and cabinets behind and underneath the bar, and Rias realized there wasn't a menu in front of her, or anywhere for that matter. Looking for this? Issei asked, holding up a menu. This is actually the only menu in the whole place. Well, I was, should I not be? Rias asked, sensing that it might not be a normal restaurant. Nah, Chow's got it. Yeah, Chow's got it, Chow said, looking up from a pot of boiling water and flashing a thumbs up. I see. Rias briefly wondered what kind of place she'd found herself in, that there was only one employee and he didn't even ask what she wanted before he started cooking. This was quite a switch from what she'd normally been exposed to, and she wasn't really sure how to act. You've never been anywhere like this, have you? Issei asked, catching on immediately. No, not even almost. It's interesting, Rias answered, trying to find the right word. The shop was nothing special, even a little run down, but there was something uniquely picturesque and lovely about the whole thing. It had the perfect homely coffee shop aesthetic, and seemed like somewhere you could stay for hours without realizing any time had passed at all. She liked the atmosphere quite a lot. It was a far cry from the ritzy places she was accustomed to. Glad you like it. Chow's shop is just about my favorite place. Damn right, Chow number one, Chow said, masterfully flipping an egg in a skillet. Issei and Chow whooped together like they were at a sporting event cheering for their favorite team, and Rias couldn't help but laugh. They were just so familiar, she was almost jealous. You're probably wondering who the old guy is. Huh, why we're so close, I mean, Issei said, almost as if reading her thoughts. I was, you two are like peas in a pod, Rias said, smiling. Issei was a dirty street orphan. Chow took him in, Chow said, proudly gesturing to one of the pictures on the bar. In it, Chow was making ramen with a 10-year-old Issei, who looked to be having the time of his life. He's right. I left orphanage after orphanage and just coming back to Chow, so eventually CPS or whoever just let me hang around. Now I'm more than old enough for it not to matter, but yeah, we got tight. Issei explained. Loved her, but their desire to micromanage her life, culminating in this awful arranged marriage, had driven a wedge between them, and they certainly weren't exceedingly close nowadays. She felt a pang of jealousy for the kinship Issei and Chow shared, but didn't react to them otherwise. She just pretended not to speak English, and blankly looked between them. Sorry, Issei started, back in Japanese now. Chow is actually who taught me English. I learned it while I lived in the States, Chow explained, smiling. You lived in America? Rias asked, intrigued. She'd never been to America, but she'd heard it was the closest to where she was from, culture-wise. Sure did, met my wife there, Chow said, a proud smile on his face. Is she the one in that picture? Rias asked, beginning to put the pieces together. My better half for 50 years, Chow said, the first calm words he'd spoken so far. He sighed happily, and Rias caught a glimpse of longing in his eyes. So Rias, how's your first time at a lowly ramen shop? You look like you like it, Issei remarked, subtly changing the subject. He didn't want Rias to ask what happened to Chow's wife, not because it would bother him, but because she'd probably get uncomfortable with the answer. It's fantastic, you're very talented, Mr. Chow, Rias said, smiling. She really meant it. She hadn't eaten ramen very many times, but she could tell his was top-notch, maybe even the best in Japan, truly. Damn right, and don't say mister, it makes me feel old, Chow said, waving his hand dismissively. Wouldn't want that, would we? Issei said with a sarcastic smirk, and he and Chow shared a big laugh while Rias giggled. Oh, right, almost forgot, Chow said, standing up from his position at the bar. He dug around in a bag under the bar, and after a second he pulled up with an ornate bottle of sake and 3 cups. Got some of the good stuff, he said, handing the bottle to Issei. Issei read the label, then whistled in appreciation. It was some good stuff. Chow's shop was by no means mainstream, but every so once in a while, a businessman would stop in and have ramen and company that was so good, he'd send Chow a gift as thanks. This time, it was a fancy bottle of sake. Issei handed the bottle back to Chow, who began to pour it in the small sake cups. Do you drink? Issei asked Rias, who nodded. Normally with meals, but a couple of times recreationally. My family has a high alcohol tolerance, Rias explained, shedding some light on why a proper teenage girl was okay with drinking sake from a sleazy guy in a ramen shop. Cool, this stuff is low percentage, so a cup with the ramen won't get anybody drunk. You cool with that? Issei asked. Inwardly Rias smirked. The thought of liquor getting her drunk was laughable. Sure, she said. Needing no further instruction, Chow placed the now-filled glasses in front of the two teens, a ball of ice in each. They all began to sip sake as they ate and talked, and to Rias, it felt less like a meal and more like a social affair. She was greatly enjoying herself, and for a moment, Rias was just a normal girl out for lunch with a friend. She wasn't Rias Graymory, next in line to the Graymory throne. She wasn't Rias Graymory, fiancé to Rias Phoenix. She wasn't a king, or an heir, or even a devil. She was just Rias, Issei's friend from school, and she liked it. Then Rias' phone buzzed, and her wonderful fantasy came crashing down. It was Akeno, asking for Rias to quickly come to their club room at Quo. She sighed in disappointment, or more like, annoyance. Gotta go? Issei asked, anticipating that she'd have to leave at some point. For her type of person, free for a whole afternoon meant nothing to do at this very moment, but subject to change. Rias smiled, but there was a slight sadness to it. Yes, I do, urgent club business. Akeno says, thank you very much for the meal, Mr. Chow, it was wonderful. She began to reach for money out of her pocket, only to be stopped by both Issei and Chow. On the house, Chow said with a wide smile, my treat, remember, don't sweat it, I'll find some way to mooch off you, Issei said, smiling. Rias smiled back, standing up from the stool, thank you both, see you tomorrow, Issei, she said, waving at he and Chow as she exited the shop. They both waited a second until they were sure she was out of earshot, then Chow yanked Issei over the side of the counter. How the hell did you get a girl like that to hang out with you? Chow yelled with a grin, giving the boy a noogie. Issei laughed, not really sure himself. That's awful, Issei, I'm so sorry you had to go through something like that. Rias spoke genuinely, with more care in her voice than he'd heard from just about anyone. I get it, you're the idealist type, aren't you? You hate to see suffering of any kind, anywhere, Issei asked quietly, not really intending for her to hear him. She did anyway. Nobody had ever said something like that to her before, so she didn't really have a response ready. Regardless, she answered from the heart, I do. It makes me feel useless to know people are going through so much and I haven't done a thing to help them. Haven't you, though? Issei asked abruptly, interrupting her. Rias tilted her head, not quite understanding. Well, I may not have known you for a long time, but let's take stock. In the brief time we've been friends, you've helped me in Asia, for just under a week. Two's a pretty good count. You don't seem the type to turn a blind eye even if you've got the perfect chance, is what I'm saying. Don't beat yourself up over something you had no control over. Red. Issei closed his eyes again, letting the gentle breeze soothe him once more into carelessness. Rias, on the other hand, was having a bit of a crisis. Nobody, not one person, had ever said something like that to her. She'd been called nice before, but never had she gotten such genuine praise from even somebody close to her, much less from someone she barely knew. She felt something weird, something she wasn't familiar with. Her face turned a little red, and her throat tightened up a bit. I see, Rias' normally confident voice cracked, making Issei look up at her once more. She wasn't facing him, making him wonder if he'd said something weird. Interrupting their conversation was the school's bell, signaling the switch from one class to the next. Rias snapped back to reality, and Issei groaned. All right, you've had your moment of tranquility. Back to class. Rias good-naturedly shooed him away as he stood up, making the boy chuckle. Fine, fine. See you later, Rias. With a moment Rias was by herself in the garden, looking off towards where Issei had left to. Something felt off, but she couldn't tell what it was. Her heart was going a mile a minute, and she had no idea why. Then, it dawned on her. How in the world had she helped Issei? Absorbed as she was, she never heard the window of the old school building above her open up. Don't beat yourself up over something you had no control over. Red. Rias gained an atomic blush as she looked up to see Akeno sticking her head out of the window and mimicking Issei. Akeno, or maybe not, Rias replied, noticing it was starting to print two large pictures out of the panel. What the hell, it's supposed to print a bunch of small pictures, not one big one. Issei looked mildly confused as he took the two photos. He couldn't really see anything, so he handed them off to Rias and started to get up. As he exited, he turned around and extended his hand towards her to help her up. Princess, Issei exclaimed sarcastically as he helped her out of the photo booth. Rias laughed. He sounded obnoxiously similar to her actual servants at home. Once she was up, she spared a glance towards their freshly printed photo. Rias was on the left, with a peace sign on her right and Issei's arm in her chest. She had a big grin and her eyes were wide open. He was on the right, with a big dopey smile and his eyes totally shut while he held his peace sign to the left. They were both enjoying the experience, but he was clearly enjoying something else too. Rias laughed out loud when she saw the picture clearly. They looked just like a normal human couple on a normal human date. That bad, huh? Issei asked sheepishly, wondering how rough the picture must have been to make her bust out laughing. No, not at all, I love it. Rias held out the other copy to him, and folded hers neatly in her pocket. She had a sincere smile on her face, and the unexpected intensity of the moment made him just a tad embarrassed. You do look like you're enjoying your arm in my chest, she followed up, giggling. Issei choked on his own breath when he saw it, realizing his cherished moment of unexpected second base was forever caught on camera. After a moment, he started laughing with her. It was just so cheesy. All right, you got me. Anyway, you ready to move on? Lotta games left to play, Issei said, gesturing around to the arcade to all the stuff they hadn't done yet. Let's. Rias was interrupted when her cell phone went off. Oh, sorry, give me just a second. Sure, by all means. She pulled her phone out to check it, and sure enough there was a text from Sona. Got a jet? Issei asked, figuring someone like her was busy yet again. I do, but not just yet. I've got a few more minutes, so let's make it count. All right, that's more like it. Remember that claw machine I mentioned? Rias placed a picture frame down on her desk, right beside a small stuffed toy. Is that a plushie dragon? Cute. Okay, no, I didn't realize you were still here. A plushie and a new picture? Someone's been busy today. These are just souvenirs, I can tell. Is that Issei in the picture? Yes, it is. You two look pretty close there. UFUFU. Is that a photo booth? How Momo? Oh, did he win you the stuffed animal too? That's so cute. Shouldn't you be doing something right now? Her friend made. Issei Hudu. Sona probed, beyond curious what she was talking about. At that, Rias inwardly grimaced. She hadn't meant to say his name, but he'd been on her mind, and in her frustration, she'd slipped up. Sensing Rias' discomfort, Sona pressed the issue. Is that what happened? You let that delinquent talk you into? Excuse me? Sona was interrupted outright by Rias, who sported a very uncharacteristic look of anger. That delinquent is one of the best people I know. It was only thanks to him that I was finally able to think of myself for once, Rias snapped, walking towards Sona. The student council didn't respond, too shocked by the outburst to counter it. He's done more for me in the past couple weeks than any of you have done for years, Rias growled, nearly in Sona's face. It had been a very long time since Sona had seen this kind of anger on her friend, and it was absolutely stunning to her that all this was for a boy she'd barely known for a month. She understood Rias was under a lot of stress, with the arranged marriage and all, but this? Rias had said, any of you. Did that mean any of the student council, or Rias' other friends, or perhaps Devil Society as a whole? Sona didn't understand. Was Rias really comparing her childhood friend to a boy she'd only just met? How insulting, putting aside those affronts to myself and your peerage. That delinquent, Sona repeated, her cold and rigid tone every bit as sharp as Rias, is one of Quo Academy's biggest mistakes. The school board allowed him into this academy because of his intelligence and charisma, and he's done nothing but walk all over it since his first day. He makes a mockery of everything it stands for, and still they allow him to have his way. Sound familiar? Rias' eyes narrowed and her jaw tightened. She understood very well what Sona was implying, that Rias liked Issei because of his brains and charms, and that he was a bad influence on her, that he was bringing the immaculate Rias Graymory down to his pathetic level, and that she was a fool for allowing him to do so. You're being childish and immature, and you need to open your eyes. Whether he does it or you do, somebody is going to make a fool of Rias Graymory before the two of you are through. There it was again. She couldn't even be friends with Issei, because he may ruin the image of Rias Graymory. She wasn't just annoyed or frustrated, now, Rias was mad. Sona, stop, she said in a low tone, warning the student council president. Judging from her clenched hands and tight jaw, she was very obviously angry, but Sona persisted. Do you even know anything about him, or was it just his cute face and sauve attitude? He's just a normal human boy anyway, he's probably only after your body. Rias slapped Sona in the face. The room became so silent you could hear a pin drop. Sona simply raised her right hand and gingerly touched the side of her face Rias had hit. It hadn't hurt much, but the meaning behind the action had hurt plenty. Without a single word between them, Sona left the room. Sighing heavily, Rias plodded back over to the couch and collapsed onto it. She didn't know what had gotten into Sona, or herself, for that matter. Not really sure what to do with herself, she reached forward and retrieved her phone from the coffee table, turning it back on to see if Sona really had called her so many times. There were in fact several texts and calls from Sona, but above all those was a single text from Issei a couple hours prior, nearly right after he'd left her in the clubroom. Hope you're enjoying your first time skipping. I know I'm enjoying your garden, he'd said, with a cheesy picture attached of himself smiling under her trees. And somehow, despite what had just happened, Rias found herself smiling. Meanwhile, Issei was still lounging in the garden, long lost in his own nap. His face was a picture of pure tranquility, and every once in a while a soft wind blew tiny green leaves down onto him. All in all, he looked like not a thing in the world could bother him. But, unbeknownst to him, he wasn't quite alone. On the edge of the school grounds, glowering hatefully at Issei, stood a mature-looking woman with black hair and violet eyes. Thanks for watching. Part 1 is over. If you enjoy the video, please do like, share, comment and subscribe.